It's time for our early edition of Type 40 Live, the live stream Doctor Who magazine show, beginning another geeky week all across Rumble, X, YouTube, and on Facebook, talking all things Doctor Who. From right back there and then to the right here and the right now, it's all in front of a live chat full of fellow friends, fans, and companions, just like you. And there's no rest for the wicked. Yeah, especially not him. Time flies. It's the beginning of the end of season 2 of all new Doctor Who. So we're going to take some time to compare further notes on what to expect when the story continues and celebrate the return of the first Doctor Who girl, the irreplaceable Carol Ann Ford, coming up on Type 40 Live. And where else could we go but right back to the original desktop theme, the very start, the classic Peter Brahatchke design for the TARDIS console room here. And yes, somebody's left the cables lying around. Health and safety nightmare, but I'll forgive them. When you're creating legendary television iconography. Hello, everybody. Hello. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks. And yeah, here we are again, back in fine-ish voice, at any rate, with lots to talk about. Some voices that were on a couple of days ago and some people I haven't spoken to in a week. So, yeah, we're going to unwrap lots of fresh opinions and maybe sort of unclog some of my own mind there after the attack on the senses. That was the Interstellar Song Contest. You can join in too, of course, in the live chat on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. You drop the comments, we'll pick up on them, and we'll all join in, won't we? A robust conversation to kick off the week all across the Whoniverse. Who is going to join me for this one? Let's wait and see. Let's pick them off like a sniper, shall we? Okay, I think he's coming direct from the gym. He's looking freshened up and exercised and slightly tanned. It has to be Mr. Anthony Wayne.
Oh, what a billing. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, looking tanned and buff, I think the word you're after.
Buff.
Good evening, everybody.
The word.
Yeah, it is a word for me.
Well, it was buff and then it was hench. And now it's something else. So I can't keep up. Sorry.
Yeah,
just say it's
as I'm in my 50s, it's probably still buff. It's good to see you too, Dan. It's good to talk about Doctor Who and all things in the Whoniverse. I was with colleagues at work today and they said, oh, do you know what? Are you anxious about going on? You're broadcasting to lots of people. Do you get any worries? And I said, do you know what I see it as? I just see it as having a cup of tea with a couple of friends and talking about Doctor Who, and everybody else joins in alongside. So it's a good place to be. How are you, Dan? Are you well?
I'm very well, thank you. The weekend didn't go as badly as I was expecting, but I did manage to fit in a lot of things in. I got a lot of things done. I didn't actually make a list of jobs that needed doing, but I got a mental list and I managed to work my way down quite a few of them. I was very proud of myself, so I gave myself a treat and popped an old 80s movie on the old Blu-ray player and just chilled out for most of Sunday. So it was a good time. It was a good time. How about you?
Yeah, so of course I watched Doctor Who on Saturday, not at 8 o'clock in the morning as everybody else may have done. So I waited till later on in the evening. So watched Doctor Who, and then I felt as a tribute I would watch Mark of the Rani episode 1, which I thoroughly enjoyed. It's a gift that keeps on giving, that one. I loved it. So much enjoyed Mark of the Rani.
You scratched the itch, did you? Let's scratch another itch or two and bring on the rest of the panel, shall we? I'm happy to say that, he's back again. He's glowing too. And I know that he's been away again at some sort of film festival. So I'm starting to think, has he brought home the bacon once again, Luke Walters?
I like how you described it. Let's scratch an itch and welcome me on.
Wow. It just comes out.
that's an intro that my friends will find hilarious when they see it, because you don't know how true that is. But yes,
we have to please.
Oh god, yeah, no, I've been to sunny South Wales, which was absolutely boiling for the Brecon Beacons Film Festival, Banabarchaniog Film Festival, which was good. It was good. It's good to catch up with. Obviously, good to live in Manchester. I don't see a lot of my friends, so good to catch up with some cast and crew, and some of the people that I haven't seen in a good couple of months actually. So yeah, it was really, really nice. And my accent came out a lot stronger, and Yeah, may I come back with another little something? You never know. You never know. You never know. So yeah, we won. I'm in the time machine won best cinematography, so that was a nice little pickup. So, but it cost me 40 quid each way in a taxi to go about 5 mile. I wanted nearly at a Connery. It's like Jesus, that's so expensive. Guess I'm just used to paying Uber prices in Manchester. Like, wow, that's mad.
I would still be recovering from that. I'd still be stood in the middle of the road, like with my head in my hands.
Awful prices. Awful. I thought it was on a night out. I was like, that's basically nearly my train fare from Manchester to Cardiff. Like, it's like, what's going on with the world? 40 quid.
I have no idea what's going on in the world, but I know somebody who will put us straight, put us on the right path. I think it must be Charlotte Shields, I think.
I love how I'm like the designated responsible adult now.
You're the designated
in our
one.
group.
Yeah.
Hello,
everybody. Right. Yeah, are you a fan of the original console room, Charlotte? Have you got a lot of time for this? Because
no, I like how you can see almost the working parts of it, like how it's not just the console. You've got the homely parts of it, and then you can tell it is like scientific equipment. It does feel like this is somebody who would just tinker and do something off in the TARDIS if they were bored, like the Doctor does. So I do love that aspect of it.
Instrumentation, and some of it's on casters as well, Anthony. That's another thing I like about the original TARDIS set.
Yeah, agreed. Of all the pictures you've put, I've been doing this Type 40 for a couple of months now, Dan. Of all the pictures you've put up of the TARDIS, I think this has to be my favourite. I don't know why. Yeah. It's black and white, it's old school, it's classic. But I tell you what I do remember about this particular view, or a view not dissimilar. There was a book called The Doctor Who Monster Book, which I believe was released around 1976. And it was full of black and white photographs just like this. And I used to pore over it as a 5-year-old. And there was a photo from the Daleks. So there was the first Doctor, Susan, Ian, and Barbara stood around the console, and I was mesmerized by that photo because you saw aspects of the TARDIS, like in this photo here, that I hadn't seen before. So there was something magical about that photo. I didn't quite understand what was happening, what the story was about, but I was intrigued by those cables sort of like dangling on the floor. Was that part of the camera crew? Is that part of the thing that makes the thing go up and down? Mesmerizing. I became hooked forever.
It's because it looks like a kind of an engine room crossed with a command center, and because it's got the marks on the floor as well, which I suppose we couldn't see them originally. And a lot of these things, it was meant to look sort of gleaming white, wasn't it? But I don't think seeing things like this in HD effectively, and all those little details has harmed it at all. In fact, it's only added to the charm for me, that kind of Heath Robinson kind of look to it.
Yeah, I would agree. But those pods kind of look like Star Trek transporters, don't they? And as a child, I kind of saw those pods as were there stories where they stood in there and they got transported somewhere? It was very mesmeric, that photo.
Or it's the shower scene, the decontamination shower scene from Dr. No, that first James Bond film. But before we get carried away talking about James Bond and other things, we should take the opportunity, I think, to beam in our final panelist. I'm not sure whether he's a red shirt, a blue shirt, or a gold shirt. In fact, he's usually wearing a hoodie, often with an emblem on his T-shirt or another, but always in fine voice and ready with some good-natured banter. It has to be David Milling, doesn't it?
Hello, yes. Gold shirt, please. I do like a gold shirt. And hello, everybody. If Anthony is buff and bronzed, I'm slovenly and sloth-like. Good evening, all. And well done, Luke. Well done.
Well done, Luke.
Hello, everybody. Well done, Luke. Another richly deserved award.
Thank you.
Fantastic. If only we had as nice a weekend.
Yes.
He's going to need to put up some more shelves, I think, isn't he? We've got lots of Doctor Who to talk about this time. Have you recovered from the weekend, David?
No. I'm still. It's still an absolute. It put a complete dampener on my weekend.
We're going to cheer you up.
I did laugh this afternoon when I saw the ratings come in for the story and the engine. I had a little giggle, and Charlotte and I had another little giggle about something else before we came on air, which made us really, really happy.
There you go. Yeah, we've
Sorry.
got lots to talk about, not least of all.
Very innuendo laden, sorry.
Not
once
least
it
of
wasn't
all,
me.
to get the opinions of these two guys about Saturday's episode, because we know what we thought, because we were there at the time, weren't we, for the Interstellar Song Contest there that premiered at the weekend. And we're going to take some more views from the live chat as well, see what they've got to say about it all. 48 hours on, because a lot can happen in 48 hours. You can completely reverse your decision about an episode of Doctor Who in all that time. I haven't, but you can theoretically. I want to turn our attention for just a little while back to the story in the engine from the week before. Now, again, the panel were divided on that one. I had a really hard time with it. I think you did too, Charlotte, but I know that Anthony and Luke found a lot to enjoy in there. But we were all rather struck by one thing in particular that seemed about as random as you could get, really. The appearance of a child in a back street there in was it Nigeria? I can't remember where it was set now.
Lagos.
Yeah, wherever they were.
Cardiff.
So there she was, this little girl dressed in H&M's finest, and she sort of waves at Belinda, and it all goes on like that. Of course, we read the credits and we worked out that it was a character called Poppy, which must be linked to the famous, Dr. Captain Poppy from Space Babies, the seminal episode from 2024, played again by Sienna Robin Mavanga Phipps. And we had a good old chuckle, didn't we, Luke, about a theory, a silly rumour that we'd read somewhere on Reddit about where this could be going and how it might not be random after all. Do you remember what that rumour was?
Well, yeah. So the Reddit rumor was the one about the Doctor. This one was one that I got told through someone on Twitter, and it was, which by the photos that they've leaked, seems to be pretty bob on that Captain Poppy is the Doctor and Belinda's daughter.
What?
Oh, for God's sake! This is worse than the Dynasty shooting at the wedding.
God, we've got to update some of these cultural references between us, haven't we? Yes, so they have just released some brand new images there, haven't they, across Instagram, it seems. And one of them does show that does look like the same child being cradled in a very motherly way by the fair Belinda. So, and I wonder the Doctor's looking a bit confused. Could there be some weight to this after all? Do you think, Charlotte? It certainly looks like it.
Well, sorry, there is one more image that I think it just got released, and it's the Doctor and Belinda in the house, and they're both dressed. And if you look at Shooty's hand, he does have a wedding ring on his left hand. He does have a wedding ring. So I just saw it 2 minutes ago.
Here's my little theory. I don't think she's the biological daughter, which is, I think, what the rumour was saying from my memory. I think the idea of this being Wish World, and it looks like the world has sort of been forced into a reality, or it's been controlled or made into something. I think in this world, Shooty and Belinda are married and Poppy's their child.
Yeah.
But it's not
Yes.
actually physically their child. It's just this idea of, because she looks a little bit like, is it called Stepford Wife sort of look? Like that idea of this over
Got her hair tied up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
Twin set and pearls.
Yeah, it's very over the top stereotype of a mama look of her. So I think in this in the next episode they're going to be pretend or being forced to be fake couple, which I still think is stupid if that happens, and I still don't think it's a good idea.
The conversations that we have on this show, David, about this bloody program, you couldn't have them talking about any other drama.
No, I thought, as I said, I thought Dynasty jumped the shark by having that wedding massacre, but and the abducted by aliens and thing, but by Crystal. But this has gone completely bob on, for complete, absolute, let's pretend style wacko. I mean, what have they been smoking in Cardiff? Has there been some sort of leak from a factory or something? That, have they got some new grade heroin or whatever? Because
I've said before, does Russell grow his own, or has he got a dealer? What's going on?
This is just absolute wacko. I mean, it's not even creative writing. It's It's tripping. It really is. It's bordering on, hello, Mr. Psychiatrist, I really need to come and see you today. I've had this thought.
Anthony, you stunned into silence by this latest development. I know you're a big fan of Space Babies last year.
Oh, I hated it. Absolutely bloody hated it. And actually, I really like the Church on Ruby Road. So I was very optimistic. So after the 3 specials, Church on Ruby Road, going to be great. And then we had this one, and then we had the one after. And I started to lose interest. And it was only till the 2 episodes in the finale of series 1 that I kind of was engaging back into, this potentially is quite good, and then it finished. So then I was hesitant at going into series 2, but it's warmed me up as we've gone along, and I read some of the comments online, and I agree with them and I disagree with them. But I mean, I think somebody online explained to me at the end of the story in the engine that was Poppy, Captain Poppy in Cardiff / Lagos. I missed that reference completely. So anything's possible, isn't it? Who knows? But I am looking forward to the finale. I am looking forward to those last 2 episodes, particularly after this week.
Do you think that that Captain Poppy, Dr. Poppy, could turn out to be a Time Lord of some kind, Anthony? Do you think this could have long-term ramifications for the franchise, or are you going to just let it take you where it needs to go?
I think I'm going to wait and see. I'm not hugely invested in what happens at the end, but I'm interested to see, and I'm excited to see to an extent. So I'm not sure that this is the reality of the Doctor and Belinda's baby, because there's been lots of references to babes and sugar and pride, and this version of the Doctor being pride driven, shall we say. So the reality of those two, if it's their actual baby, I would be surprised, but if it's a wish world reality from somebody, then I kind of get it. I am invested to a certain extent after the last couple of weeks.
Hopefully we'll find out where it all interconnects, and sooner rather than later. We have to, because it all wraps up in like 10 days time or something, with the 2-part finale. Incredible. Beginning Wish World / the reality war. My head hurts already. I don't know how the serious fans out there, the ones with bigger brains than me, how they're holding up. We could ask them later. We'll reach out, see what he's got to say about all of that. I think what we really need, though, is a proper Time Lord to sort it all out, Anthony. I thought this bloke looks like more capable.
I love that. I love that photo. Somebody created this for me and said, this is you as the Doctor. So if there was any opportunity to take over from Shooty, I'll give it a go. I'd wear that in black. That's great.
I think you do very well.
Thank you. I feel quite buff in that photo to carry on a trend.
You look really kick-ass, actually, Anthony, in that photo. You look like, don't mess with me. I'm the sort of like the Godfather Doctor.
Yeah, it'd be Doctor Who if the showrunner was Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, David, don't mess with me. That's the kind of
I've heard.
Yeah. So although I haven't got a long cloak on today, I'm loving that picture. Thank you, Dan, for that. I love that. Thank you. You've made my day.
There you go. We make lots of people's days here. Yeah, Type 40 Live. Let's go and see what some of the people in the live chat have to say about it so far.
The walls of time are breaking down. You need to listen. The only way to save the universe. Watch Type 40.
Yeah, Type 40 Live on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook, taking comments as ever from the live chat. And we're joined by an army of fellow fans. Whatever their frame of mind, they've come here to chill out and find out exactly what's going on. We've got 2 episodes and a lot to fill in, and I suspect we won't get all the answers, says Josh H. Now, they do like to leave some things hanging in the air, don't they? Maybe for even a few years. Rose Kirby says, isn't the unearthly child and space babies exactly the same meaning? I don't think so.
Yeah, but with Russell's current frame of mind, I wouldn't be surprised.
I heard, Dan, that Russell heard that you love space babies too. Space babies, this is his tribute to you to do the sequel.
A little gift. A little gift.
A little
yeah.
gift to you. A personal
Bless you.
gift.
Oh, Lord Thoth is complimenting you there, Anthony, on your overcoat there as the Doctor. Your choice of costume.
Oh
yeah. I just had a text from a friend of mine saying you look very loaded in that photo. I don't quite know what that means, but
I think I've just worked out what they mean.
From the 90s magazine, I think, Anthony. Loaded magazine. If you know what I mean.
It's all true. It's all true.
Cover your eyes, kid. Cover your eyes. I am looking forward to the 2-part finale, says the enigmatic Joker. Great stuff, Joker. Good to see you back in the comment section. Anthony Parkinson is simply looking forward to it being over. There you go. Paul Thomas Ashworth is hoping that Bobby Ewing wakes up in the shower and finds out from Pam it was all a dream. Well, we have done that gag several times over the years, Paul, but we haven't for a little while, so I thought I'd let you crack it one more time. Thanks for joining us. Russell, we've got speculation here from Woodhouse122, which I can't read out on YouTube, and lots more comments too from people about all this nonsense that we've been getting into so far. More of that, please. We've got a lot to cover, more shocks to get over, and some reviews to take as well. That's only part of what we do here at Type 40 Live. You can get our instant reactions to the current series every Saturday, completely live, sometimes within 10 minutes of them being on the telly. We've been directly on YouTube, going off on one more often than not about what we've just witnessed. So get the new Who reactions live streams there. Go back and rewatch our mostly pain. There is some pleasure in the equation as well, because it hasn't all been bad. I have enjoyed some of this, but I have enjoyed every single live stream, getting the various panels together and our guests from across podcasting and YouTube as well there. So you can hit up the playlist. It's what I'd like to think of as evergreen content, as is this, the latest of our conversations with the great Ian Levine. What a character. He joined me for a long-form conversation, a big old catch-up. Ian Levine was uncensored and went postal there on everything from the current season to AAI projects and box sets and all manner of real world and Doctor Who related matters. So yeah, it's a fascinating peek inside the mind of Ian Levine, with myself and the man himself there when Ian Levine went uncensored and postal. You can watch that here on the YouTube and Rumble channels as well. Thirsty work. Very thirsty work. Later on, we are going to be touching base with a real Doctor Who icon. After a monumental weekend, I think whatever you thought of everything that was on screen, there were plenty of surprises as well, which I think would have at least have made people sit up and pay attention. So we'll come round to that in a little while as well. But before all of that...
Now, I suggest you start watching Type 40, because I can't. I've got to watch this little blighter. The job for... I'll have less of that from you, thank you very much. Know your place.
Know your place.
Look, if I have to run up a flight of stairs, you come and find me.
I'll be in the lift.
That's going to the bottom of the floor then. Keep watching Type 40. There's good chaps.
And he never called us honey once, did he? God, dear me. Yes, so here we are. We're going to catch up now. We're going to see what the rest of us have to say about the very latest episode, because some of us got together and did share those instant reactions directly after the broadcast on BBC One on Saturday of the latest episode of Doctor Who. We have more takes to take on board. As ever, it was on iPlayer and Disney Plus from 8 a.m. UK time that day. And then again on BBC One, there was an element of doubt in the proceedings whether it would even get shown, because it was jammed between those two great live events, wasn't it? The FA Cup final and the Eurovision Song Contest, which are big audience draws even in 2025, because of course they're both live. They're both, I wouldn't say they unite families as such, but they are very sort of communal watches that if you're not watching them there at the time, you know, obviously the results are going to get blown for you. So they do pull in quite a large live audience. When it comes to the Interstellar Song Contest, of course, this was the episode of the season that I personally, as I've said several times, was dreading. There's no other word. I was absolutely dreading this. So it was with great trepidation that I sat and watched it. As it turned out, I didn't hate it as much as I was expecting, and there were positives about it. I've seen a lot of opinions. You know, we took several views in the other night on the show, but of course, Anthony, Luke, you weren't here then, so I've got no idea, because we haven't really caught up, what you thought of it. I mean, I suppose the question is, Anthony, were you dying for the FA Cup to end, or were you just simply wishing for the Eurovision Song Contest itself to hurry up and start so this would be over quicker? Where did you sit with the Interstellar Song Contest?
Well, I think I agree with you, Dan. So the kind of build up for this particular episode was one that I was not looking forward to. I don't know, especially why not, but, you know, Rylan being there, and was this a gimmick? Was this too lighthearted? Was this too much fun? So I haven't really approached any of these episodes in series 2 with excitement. But as the series has progressed, I've got more and more into this version of Doctor Who. And I've suddenly become a little bit more comfortable with it and at peace with it. So the Wells started off well. Lucky Day was great. I did enjoy the story of the engine. And I thought this was going to break the run of 3 stories that I'd really enjoyed. Was this going to be the 4th one that I didn't enjoy? But I absolutely loved it. And I even took to Twitter to say how much I loved it, because it felt like it was a new Doctor Who story, but very familiar in the sense of, you know, if Andrew Cartmel had the money to realise a 7th Doctor story that was slightly wacky, you know, not in a circus, not in a high-rise block of flats, but in the Eurovision Song Contest, or the equivalent of an Interstellar contest, I think probably Andrew Cartmel would have jumped at that opportunity, but had realised that there wasn't a budget to be able to realise that. You know, I put to one side who wrote this story and what they've said previously. I looked at just the story as it was transmitted, and I really, really enjoyed it. It has to be my favourite of the year so far.
They boasted beforehand, Anthony, about how expensive this was. The most expensive Doctor Who episode of all time, apparently. I think that it even includes some things like the Day of the Doctor, those sort of tentpole, big audience draws and celebrations. So whenever they make statements like that, you know, it always increases the pressure on them to deliver. And there were some spectacular visuals in this. I can't deny that.
Yeah, there were. And actually, Russell taking to social media and saying, you know, don't be spoiled. If you want to be spoiled, you know, go onto social media. But if you don't, keep clear. You know, we kind of all knew, didn't we, that the Rani was coming back. And we kind of all knew Susan was going to be making an appearance somewhere. It was just kind of when... I think I did. It was just when and where. And actually, it was nice to go into this and think, oh, it's here. You know, we're going to find out about the Rani. We're going to find out about Susan. It's going to be here and now. So I went into the episode. I think I watched it about 6 o'clock, and I went in not having nobody confirm it for me. A couple of friends said via text, "Oh, I've been spoiled online. Somebody's said and put a picture." And I thought, I'm not thinking about that. I'm going to just go into it blind. And as I say, in all
honesty, I had known about the Rani for a little while, but I wasn't expecting it in this episode. And so, if you hadn't have been tipped off about some of that, do you think is that what heightened your excitement, or do you think that the strength of the script itself would have been enough anyway?
Yeah,
that stuff?
I do. I like it. It's two aliens who are hijacking a very well-known interstellar competition. You know, there are androids with guns. There's a bit of jeopardy. It looked great. I have to say, it looked great. And I tell you what, I've really loved about a lot of the stories this year. As a young fan, so I'm thinking about Anthony, age 5, 6, 7. It was always a great excitement where the TARDIS landed somewhere differently or uniquely.
Me
too. So I think about, you know, Snake Dance, when the TARDIS lands in that tent and you can kind of see the bottom part of the TARDIS because the rest is obscured.
One of my favourite landings.
Yeah, and there was TV comic, there was a comic strip, where the Doctor lands in Italy, and there's kind of like, I remember as a child thinking, oh my gosh, you can only see half of it. So I have to congratulate the production team this year, because the TARDIS landed in a lift in the well. It lands in one of those kind of capsules in the interstellar competition. I just think it sort of taps into some of my interests, and that's maybe why I'm enjoying it.
It's just been
as much
parts of
as
it
I
were
am.
a bit more inventive in that respect then, because I thought some of the direction of this I was really impressed by.
Yeah, I would agree. And some of that kind of floating up into space shots are great. I have a lot of time for this particular episode, and there are very few episodes where I've gone back and watched them again. I've watched this one twice, and it's only Monday, which is pretty much unheard of. There are lots of episodes which I've only ever seen once. So this was one I've watched twice. And actually, to be fair, Story in the Engine I've watched twice. Lucky Day I've watched twice, and The Whale I've watched twice. So for me, it's been a thumbs up. Yeah, I've enjoyed them.
And how about you?
Against anything, Dan, I said I was going to. Series one, really... I hated him, absolutely hated him, because he's nowhere near any of them, and I had a real problem with that.
You were really touch and go about whether you were even going to watch it or not, didn't you? Yeah. So sorry, Luke. Over to you. A glowing review there from Anthony. Luke, how about you?
Well, it was a douze pois from me. I absolutely loved it. I had the best time watching it. Take out the two bits irrespective as well. One was a mid-credit scene anyway, and the other one was just a very quick flashback. I really enjoyed the story. I thought it was. You could tell this was the most expensive episode, and you could tell where the money went. It was in the first 10-15 minutes. That's where all the money went. And it's like, wow, okay, because the rest of it was combined to a corridor, and a control room. But I was like, oh wow, I was like, yeah, probably that's the giggle. That's the sign of the giggle. That didn't know that till someone pointed out on Twitter. But yeah, no, I loved it. I thought. Yeah, I was just enthralled by it. I thought it was impeccably paced. I thought there's a lot of really, really niche references to other British TV shows as well in there, which I didn't pick up on. There's a couple of Red Dwarf references for some reason. Yeah, no, I loved it. It's everything. I love the fact that they hyped this up to be. This is like Eurovision. They spent about 10 minutes with Eurovision, if that, and then they just went totally into this other story completely. I know Russell said, "Oh, it's like if Eurovision meets Die Hard." The only problem is I didn't see Shigawa or Belinda climbing through a vent. So I don't. Yeah, it's not really like Die Hard.
No, it didn't have that. It didn't have that race against time feeling that something like Die Hard did. But it did have a sort of a feeling of the Last Jedi about it. I thought.
I hate the Last Jedi, so please don't. I will say Rise of Skywalker is better than Last Jedi for me. Jeez, that film is just. Anyway, I digress. I thought Rylan was great in it. I love the fact they took the nick out of his teeth as well with the gleam. I thought that was funny. Graham Norton's nice to finally see Graham Norton canon in Doctor Who actually there instead of just interrupting it.
I said on Saturday how I was surprised how good Graham Norton was in this. And I can't stand this man. I can't watch. Yeah. I seriously don't like him at all, either as a personality or his shows. But I've got to give credit where it's due. He pitched that absolutely perfectly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I thought the scene with him delivering as well. I thought it was quite haunting as well at times. And I was like, oh wow, I thought this is just. I watched that. I thought this is a great piece of TV. I was watching it down in South Wales, streaming it off my phone, and I was just like, oh wow! I was like, I loved it, absolutely loved it. Take away what happened with the bi-generation. I thought it was great as well. And I know the Doctor went incredibly dark, and I know there's been a lot of backlash of it, but we've seen the Doctor go dark before, and we've seen him be treacherous and murderous, and we've seen what he did to the family of Blood and killing Cyberman and Earthshock. We've seen this side of the Doctor before.
I see what you're saying.
So it's not something new. He was triggered by Gallifrey. I don't know if it's a Time War, because obviously we know the time he didn't kill everyone in the Time War. So I'm guessing he's referring to Sacha Dhawan's master killing all the Time Lords again.
You see, you're right in some respects. I mean, a couple of those instances. But what I always say when people sort of reel off things like that, And I didn't find that material in this episode quite as shocking as some did. But I'm disapproving of the principle of the Doctor literally torturing somebody. But I do see what you're saying. But when I look back, for example, when I look back to Attack of the Cybermen, when he guns down the cyber controller in that, that episode was cited for so many years, Anthony. You'll remember as an example of what not to do and where the characters should never go. Don't do this again. And so, to hold these things up as I think people over the decades, people who either weren't around then or simply feel differently look at these events that horrified some with slightly different eyes. And so I don't there are any sort of wrong answers or wrong readings, but it's interesting to compare people's experiences with it. I thought Shooty himself was great in it.
Yeah,
Sorry. For me, Dan, I think that we need to make a distinction between darkness and cruelty.
Yes.
And for me, we've seen the Doctor be dark. We've seen him manipulate Dorothy, Ace, and her life. That's dark. We saw him in Curse of Fenric dismiss her out of hand. That was dark and cruel, but not cruel in the same way as physically torturing a refugee. Well, sorry, you could say refugee, but a victim of an oppressed state that has been wiped out and destroyed.
I liked seeing the Doctor travel a distance as a character in this, and it feels like, because we've had no progression with the character for a long time, and I'm including the Jodie Whittaker era in this, she went backwards in the character. That really takes some doing. Shooty stood still the majority of his era. Here, I think it was almost an overcompensation because the character did travel quite a lot and was working on all these different levels, but it was in a very unrefined, and I would argue personally, for my tastes, it was over the line. It was rather vulgar. And I think that it won't stand up. I think I don't know. I'll have to go. I'll probably go back to it at some point. But I see why people are reacting.
I think for me, yes, there are some occurrences, like David said, of being dark with this character, but there's a hell of a lot more examples and lines and doctors showing that would be the last thing they would do. Like I said on Saturday, we've had the Doctor show every other trait, from forgiveness to being able to see the good in some of the most despicable beings on the universe, to actually showing how violence just gets more violence. You've got this idea of the Doctor usually being the example of, you can be better, you can use your brains, you can think of other ways than just lashing out. Because that's, if I'm going to be blunt, that's how humans usually act. That's how we usually think, because that's in our nature. It is. It's not a good part of our nature, and it's an ugly part of our nature, but it's in there. And the Doctor goes above that. So I get it, but for me, I think that was... This era is showing in quite a few occurrences that the people in charge don't have a clue who the Doctor is. And they're just using the Doctor to get their own little vindictiveness on screen.
Two references, both to Pertwee's first season 7, when the Brigadier, and we understand why the Brigadier does it, okay? The Brigadier wipes out the Silurians, and the Doctor absolutely lambasts him for saying it's sheer murder. How dare you? That's one. Then, at the end of Ambassadors of Death, there's a beautiful scene where General Carrington says, I think it's General Carrington, isn't it? Yeah, he says, please understand, Doctor, please say you understand that I did it because it was my moral duty. And you just see a very, very sad scene where the Doctor just goes, I understand, as he just sort of is led away. And it's rather a dismissive, I understand. But it's a kind of, in this series, my God, he'd probably get out a damn sort of MP5 and shoot him where he stands. The thing is, it's I don't mind the Dark Doctor at all. Tom Baker is incredibly dark in The Seeds of Doom. It is his probably most violent story, but he, as well as Deadly Assassin, but it's not cruel. And the whole way it was written doesn't, for me, give him
we can't go back. We can't go back
cruel.
over this. We spent a lot of time on this subject on Saturday.
But
so,
yeah,
Luke,
that was what I felt.
So, Luke, when did you watch it alone or with friends? And did you have that kind of party atmosphere? Because it was very, very camp. I accept that Doctor Who has an appeal to people who enjoy camp entertainment and has to some respect always had, if not one foot in the camp, has often sort of been deliberately camp in its entertainment value. So I accept that's part of it. But in my view, this did sort of tip over a little in that respect. Did you watch it with friends? And do you think this brand of Doctor Who works better communally?
I didn't actually. I watched it in the caravan on my own. My missus was in bed.
That shot me down.
I watched it in the morning. So my missus was in bed, and I woke up, and I was like, I'm not gonna. I saw all the boys messaging in the group chat, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to watch it then. And unfortunately, there was no Wi-Fi where I am, so I had to hotspot my laptop and then daisy chain my laptop into the telly to try and stream it and watch it. But I know a couple of them did later. I know a couple of friends of mine watch it just before the Eurovision party. I was actually working. I was at the film festival working. I was doing the Man City podcast while at the festival, doing an interview for my film. So I really wanted Man City to end, to be honest. So not just for Doctor Who's sake, just for my own sanity, to be honest.
I get the impression this has wrong-footed a lot of people because it's something that looked outwardly very broad and light and fluffy. And it was. I would argue that the plot is paper thin. Now, I don't necessarily view that as a bad thing. I think the Doctor Who plots don't have to be constantly complicated all the time. If you can have a thin plot, if the characters are all great, then fine, then it's a character piece. In this, I thought it was a thin plot with, in my view, characters that were put together very, very poorly. So none of that really worked for me. But the balance, the tonal balance, was what I think prevented it from either being the escapism that some wanted or being the kind of the statement, the political statement, because there was a political element to this, but it was so garbled in its execution and in my view, very poor writing from Juno Dawson, that none of that made its way through. So I think that in one respect, that kind of made it, with the exception of the content that we talked about a moment ago, that scene with the Doctor, I think that kind of made it kind of baseline settings Doctor Who to the naked eye, that looks a bit like this and feels a bit like something else. But I think that my instinct is that apart from the budgetary element, this episode would be fairly standard in the average season. But in a season of 8, Anthony, I still think 8 is too short. You've got to kind of make every one count. And I'm really not sure whether people will remember this in a couple of years' time. And what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, isn't it a shame that these episodes weren't shown as one long run, and then you'd get the kind of story arc? Because all 16. Because I'm anticipating that the events of the Space Babies are going to, be resolved, I guess, in the finale somehow. We're leading our way toward that. And actually, if those 16 had been shown all together, I think it would have been a really interesting arc for this particular Doctor. For a Doctor that is crying at one moment and then going full on Palpatine in the next, I think is an interesting story arc. And Dan, I absolutely agree with you. In the old series, when the 5th Doctor holds a gun in Earthshock, when the 6th Doctor holds a gun again to Cybermen in Attack of the Cybermen, these are character developments which we find shocking and unusual. David has already mentioned, Tom Baker in Seeds of Doom, Pyramids of Mars. They roll off the tongue in those early Hinchcliffe Doctor Who's. So for me, I wish the 16 had been shown as a block. I think the Sutekh episodes would have been the kind of traditional episode 6, 7, and then 8, where You know, in the first series, there was Dalek to give it a spike. And then we would have gone, you know, a couple of kind of mid-range story, and then we would have risen up to the conclusion. So Russell has won me over, I have to say, in this particular story arc. I'm enjoying Doctor Who more than I probably have. Let me think carefully. The last episode I probably truly enjoyed was probably Day of the Doctor. Truly got a buzz from, and this was the most recent example of that. So there's quite a lot of Doctor Who in between.
I am enjoying this enthusiasm, I have to say, from both of you. Domgo in the live chat says it was complete garbage. Are you guys well? we are a broad church here at Type 40, Domgo. We've got a similar comment here from Woodhouse 122. But Heretic says the series is better than the last, but that wasn't difficult. They're all really bad, but surely one is better than the rest. Okay, that's not that much more upbeat. But we've got Shah in the live chat as well. Shah has joined us, the one and only Geek Rambles herself.
Hi, Shah.
And she says the story wasn't incredible, Charlotte, but it wasn't rubbish either. The fan service definitely saved it for me. That being said, the visual effects were absolutely stunning. And
and here's the thing, I can't deny, even though people know I did not have a fun time with the actual episode, I am looking forward to the Rani and this actress. It looks like to me they've cast really well again, which I'm happy, because it looks like even if the story isn't going to take me into like amazing place, I'm possibly not going to enjoy it, I've got an actress in the Rani. I've got Conrad's actor coming back, which I really enjoyed him in Lucky Day. I thought he carried that character. If it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have liked that character as much. So at least it looks like, if nothing else, I'm going to get some good acting, which is, like you've sort of said in the past, if there's bits you can sort of gravitate towards, that's still better than nothing. So, like I said, I know cynically why this has happened with the Rani.
Charlotte, the very worst thing that Doctor Who can ever be is boring. You know, that's the main reason why I dislike the Chibnall era so much. I do consider this era to be far above it, far superior. But I obviously agree that there's a lot. It's far from Russell T Davies' best work in or outside of Doctor Who. I'm a big fan of the Rani. So the scene at the end, as you described, this sort of the mid-credits scene, Luke. Despite the fact I've been tipped off about this, it didn't remotely ruin it for me. And to see not just Anita Dobson there as well, who, generally speaking, I think she's had quite a thankless task for much of this season, but she's a really popular actress, and I'm just delighted to have her in Doctor Who. Even now, I can see why they've kept her around, and to have cast an actress, a British character actress, with the body of work that Archie Panjab has behind her, I think this can only be a good thing for Doctor Who, generally speaking. And at least with the Rani, it's a pretty camp character. So if they're going to camp this up and give it the kind of like the Bond villain energy, it's absolutely warranted, because this is the Rani.
Yeah, I think the only good thing to come out of this bi-generation is we don't lose Anita Dobson, because we lost Sir Derek Jacobi's master within 5 minutes of him, 5-10 minutes of him being the master. But now we've got Anita Dobson as the Rani. If she would have regenerated straight away, and then we would have had Archie take over, it would have been like, we've lost Anita Dobson, and I'm so happy that's for me. That's the good thing about the bi-generation. I know the Hooligans cast and crew as well are saying the same thing, so I'm just kind of reiterating what they say, really. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be good as well. I think the dynamic will be quite interesting as well, because obviously the Rani is all about science and evolution. So I think maybe the way that Mrs. Flood is subservient to the Rani is that she's an evolution of the Rani, so she sees her as superior. Maybe that's
Matt's
maybe
mentioned
that's what
that
I think.
on Saturday's show.
I was gonna say as well, Luke. It's traditional, isn't it, that the Rani always has a subservient assistant
Yes.
with them. So, you know, like So Mrs. Flood has become Urak from Time and the Rani. You know, this kind of kowtowing kind of character. Same for Josh in Mark of the Rani and Timothy Westson in Dimensions in Time. The Rani exists with this kind of subservient character, which I have to say did raise a smile. As it was true to the characterization.
There aren't many fans of the whole sort of bi-generation thing. I mean, that's a show in itself as well. You know, fans get really angry about this, including Lucy Meow in the live chat, who says bi-generation is very dumb. It weakens the Doctor, and now the Rani too. I mean, all of this it's very, very contrived. In this instance, I kind of agree with you, Luke. I'm glad they're keeping Anita Dobson around, and so I'm happy to at least ride it out until the finale to see if it's sort of warranted, if they've kept her around to not do anything with her, then it's obviously going to be pointless. But if they're going to give her some good stuff to do, then I'm all for it, frankly. I think it's a good thing. Russell T. Davies has added a little more on Instagram. This is his social media of choice, Charlotte. He was directly on there. I think this was within 12 hours of the episode being on, and dropped this. And next week, enemies old and new unite as the Doctor faces the unholy Trinity. This is only 2/3 of the Trinity. The two Ranis count as one because he says so. The third is lying in wait exactly 160 years away. So stand by. This is the big one. First of a two-part finale. The Pantheon is stirring. That's just the way I'm sat. Old friends are helpless, and that'll be Mel, won't it? And the whole of reality is in danger as we hurtle towards May the 24th in the Rani's most terrifying experiment yet. And then there's lots more of his usual stuff, a lot of hashtags and some emojis. And and he's got a baby as one of the emojis there at the bottom too, Luke. I've just seen.
Poppy.
Russell put this out right away. So yeah, he's plugging the sprog. Yeah, I mean, I do like this kind of the mid-credit scene did give me, Charlotte, it gave me that kind of Doctor Who feeling from not just Russell's original era, but I got it during the Moffat era as well with Matt Smith, whereby the stakes are going up now. This is starting to feel like an event. It's event with a small e, whereas back then for me it was not capital E. It was all caps E. So it was nice to get a tingle of that. And although I do find those sort of mid-credit scenes, they're all a bit MCU for me, and I'm so done with the Marvel movies. I can forgive them that because it's 2025 and I'm a middle-aged man. It's okay.
well, no, I really don't like the subservient side of this of Anita Dobson's Rani, because I actually think it's, and I'm going to be honest, I think it's insulting to Anita as
I haven't seen enough of it. I don't feel like.
Well, no, but here's what I'm going to say. To Anita's sort of stature and history, to give her these nothing little scenes or series.
Yeah.
To give her these little one-note lines, and then you get your big moment of, look, she's the Rani, which should have been her big moment. And then she bi-regenerates and she's there going, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, 3 bags full, ma'am. And it looks like off the clips, that's not just going to be like in that scene. That's going to be how she's characterized going forward. And for me, I would rather have had 2 Ranis basically both trying to outdo each other, both trying to be like, no, I'm the one in charge, and have like almost that sort of cattiness on screen. That's what I honestly would have preferred, than one being clearly the one in charge and the other one being this snivelling version. I think it's a waste of an actress and it's insulting to her.
At least she's not dressed. At least she's not dressed as a humanoid bat, David.
Yeah. Two things. I think the mid-credit scene was a misstep. I think it would have made a far better pre-credit scene for next episode. Firstly. Secondly, I agree with Charlotte totally about the reveal. I think that look at how Derek Jacobi handled that revelation when he realized he was the master, and he had quite limited screen time at the end for the shock value, but he was by far It was by far a better scene, and it seems like Russell's just recycling his old tricks, but they're not as good, and we've had them before, and we just able to say it wasn't as good as that was better. You're running out of ideas, and I really hope, and this is where I want him to find the zeitgeist again. I really hope that this whole subservient rubbish is just that version of the Rani biding her time to stab the other in the back. Because
That'd be good.
I would love to see that, because that would be really, really befitting for Anita Dobson to have a moment in the light as a really as really villainous,
there's got to be
nasty
something.
piece of work.
Tom Haynes is asking in the live chat, who thinks Missy is coming back?
Oh yeah,
I think Missy will come back. I don't really see any reason to believe that Missy will be back. Tom, myself, I don't think there's room for Missy. I think we're all over Missy. She hasn't appeared for years and years. I was well tired of the character. So aside from the fact that Michelle Gomez was on the red carpet at the season premiere event a few weeks ago, which, to be fair, most of the other people who were there have turned up. I can't think of a single reason why they'd want to throw Missy in there as well. I think that would be a really silly thing to do.
And here's the thing: he's already got a lot on his plate. He's got, like, look at that description. We've got 2 Ranis. We've got Conrad. It's very, very heavily rumored. Another big classic villain is going to come back. And I won't say who. I'll just say it's very heavily rumored.
The name's been dropped in the live chat.
I'm just going to get my omega-3 capsules over here and take some, because I just need some.
So I was good. Sorry, Charlotte.
So and I think you've got enough big sort of screen sort of chewing characters. You've got enough sort of big returns, and you've got a regeneration to fit in, and you've got to wrap up Belinda's arc, and you've got to wrap up just a normal plot of these episodes. You've got to fix the end of the world. Russell's got a lot of plates spinning. That's all I'll say. Let's see if he can pull it off.
It'd be a big reset button.
I was going to say, Dad, sorry, on the bi-regeneration point, in the classic series, regenerations used to come very infrequently. And I feel as though in the new series, regeneration happens in an awful amount of times, compared to the old series. I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just an observation. But the bi-regeneration thing takes out the jeopardy for me about regeneration. Because when you had a regeneration previously, that actor or actress left the role, and that was it. And there was lots of jeopardy in regeneration. I think in bi-regeneration, you kind of get the two still surviving, the previous one and the new one.
Well, Anthony,
and
it was mournful.
Reduces it.
It was exciting, but it was mournful as well.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And I don't know, I kind of got it with David Tennant and Ncuti, because I always felt that Russell had the kind of the bi-regeneration David Tennant for a spin-off series. You had this kind of homespun David Tennant with Donna living their life. You could have some adventures. And I felt that it was done like that for a reason. Now we haven't got that reason anymore. This bi-regeneration thing takes the jeopardy out of the regeneration, because it would have been seriously goodbye to Mrs. Flood. And that would have been that. So, yeah, I get the point about what Charlotte is making about, Mrs. Flood being now subservient to the Rani, because she was great in her own right. And I do wonder whether bi-regeneration just reduces the concept of regeneration. It doesn't make it mournful, as you say, Dan, or important enough anymore.
It's interesting to hear some different takes on the Interstellar Song Contest. I was open about my prejudice against it and why. In terms of the history of the show, I think that it probably will. I think it probably will be remembered for a couple of key reasons. And I think that some of the discussions that we've been having on this edition of the show, it's a pity that the era is all but over, because I'm sure they could have gone further, for better or for worse, with some of the development of the character of the Doctor. Now that Ncuti Gatwas does seem to be showing a certain amount of range, which I think he didn't last season, certainly consistently. So, yeah, you're right about this, Anthony. They should have shown all 16 of these pretty much all in one. I think that would have been far, far wiser. Obviously, there would have been take it off for a week or so here or there to accommodate Wimbledon or something, because 16 weeks would have been a long stretch by modern TV standards. But 8 is nowhere near enough, and I think that it's better to go long than to fall short. Yes, I'm aware of what I just said. Yes, so thank you for your takes on that, everybody. The Interstellar Song Contest, they need all the help that they can get over there, don't they, on the iPlayer and Disney Plus. So go and hit it up. It's streaming right now, and yeah, get over there, see what you think, and then you've probably been spoiled already if you haven't seen it. I don't think many people don't know about the various sensational aspects of it, and let us know some more of your thoughts in the comments section as well. Time to put the 21st century on standby now, though. We're going to wiggle the aerial and twiddle the dial to tune into genuine gold from telly times past, where Doctor Who legends were paying the lecky, selling us everything from fairy liquid to Ford Cortinas. It can only be the Type 40 Live Doctor Who ad break. You enjoy the ads, and we'll be back in a moment or two.
November 26 and 27 in Chicago, fantasy becomes reality. Doctor Who, the ultimate celebration, featuring live all 4 Doctors, Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Patrick Troughton, and myself, John Pertwee. Join us and 17 other stars in celebration of our 20th anniversary.
For tickets, call free 1-800-543-8800 or send money order $50 adult, $20 children 5 through 11 to Spirit of Light, 4805 West Irving Park, Chicago 60641.
Packed with carbohydrates and 7 of the essential vitamins, every bowl of Kellogg's cornflakes is a bowl full of sunshine. So whatever you get up to Kellogg's cornflakes.
Introducing Doctor Who, the complete history. An epic journey through time with the Doctor. Go behind the scenes of over 250 adventures featuring all 12 Doctors and discover how every story was brought to the screen in this official series of hardback books. Doctor Who, the complete history. Issue 1, $1.99.
There can't be too many actors who can even say the word 199 and make it sound epic. Welcome back to Type 40 Live on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook, covering the future, the present, and the past of all things Doctor Who. We're still reeling from the weekend, taking in more reviews of that latest episode and getting stuck in to other things. It's amazing who pops up, isn't it, when you least expect it? There he is, the original. That smile. Actually, I wonder if he was eating a packet of Walker's Crisps in there or something like that, or a Mars bar. I mentioned Walker's Crisps. Now, Gary Lineker's on the roam. Okay, yes, we're back with Type 40 Live. I've got a panel here too to get stuck into the rest of it. Who's here so far? I've got Anthony Weiner and his enormous Sports Direct mug there. Most impressive, my friend. Most impressive. Looks even bigger when it's closer to the camera. It's like the Doctor and Leela in it's because it's further away. We've got Luke Walters here as well, who hasn't changed into a onesie. That has to be a Type 40 Live first for this one. David Millings here too as well, as is Charlotte Shields, and we've got so much left to get stuck into as well. We do it live, everybody. We do it live. So whatever stories are breaking as we're live, we'll have to get to those later on another edition of the show. So yeah, make sure you like the video. Please help. It helps more than you think. Subscribe to the channel and hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications about what we're doing next and when we're doing it. We've got some new names in the live chat as well. Great to have some new people with us. Shah's in there dishing out some truths. We've got Far Sight in the live chat as well. We've got Stephen Braddock asks, who the hell is Frau Zuffal? Russell mentions Frau Zuffal in that Instagram post. I thought she was a supporting character in The Sound of Music. So I don't know where he's going with that. Could be anywhere. Powell's says, sorry, I am late. Well, we did start without you, Pals, but I'm glad you're here in the end anyway. And Philip Roy speculates that Russell T Davies could be obsessed with that space baby. It makes me think he's been smoking the poppy pipe of Poppy. Whatever can he mean, Luke? Yeah.
No idea. It's from Swansea, so who knows? Probably some. Yeah, I'm not going to say I was going to say that, but it would be some illicit substances that are down from. So anyone, just go watch Twin Town from Kevin Allen from years ago. You'll get what Swansea's like.
Goes back a bit, doesn't it? Shah is incensed at mention of Omega. Leave Omega the hell alone. They tried that in McCoy's era and abandoned it. Thank God. They messed around with his hand, didn't they? They did for a little while.
Yeah, I thought Omega was a really good villain for the Three Doctors. Not so great for that. Oh gosh, I've forgotten
Arc
it.
of Infinity.
Thank you. Arc of Infinity just went out of the brain, and I just think that we need some new villains, a bit like the Silence. I don't for Russell to make such a big thing as he did when he came saying, "Oh no, we're not going to have the Daleks or the Cybermen or the Master, or we want new stuff." I just like it to be something new, okay, rather than relying on something that was a little bit old. Dare I say it?
I'm a little frustrated with Doctor Who that in this decade it tends to have gone one step forward and two steps back with regularity.
Yeah.
I don't think that's helpful to any of us, including us older fans who've been with it for longer. I think it's good for us to see and feel something new and to move with the times, Anthony.
Yeah, I agree. And if Omega were to return, I'm sitting here speculating. There's not many more classic villains, are there, of that stature to bring back into the new series?
Not.
So at one point, they're gonna have to, start rethinking and developing new aliens and monsters, like David has just said.
Apart from the Mandrills, obviously.
Yeah,
the monoids.
Let's have a bit of them, but in terms of big grandiose monsters, Sutek, Omega, you're ticking them off slowly, aren't you, Russell? So there's very few fan-serving villains of that stature left, I think.
Yeah.
The Nymon makes a comeback. That would be great.
Tom Haynes asks.
The Nymon kind of did.
Tom Haynes asks, do you think Joe Martin will come back? Tom, I couldn't give a flying you-know-what. Let's get on with the rest of the show. And I think we've all got our picks about who we'd like to come back and who we wouldn't. Yeah, let us know in the comment section. Who do you think that they are missing? What are the obvious ones that they haven't brought back? Because I think we have all got our favourites. And they have brought back some weird ones, like the Macra back in the early days. There is some things, some characters, villains, and associates are conspicuous by their absence.
Hello and welcome. I will be off saving the universe, but while I am doing that, make sure you listen to, what was that, Chesterfield? Type 40. Yes.
Okay, so for what seems like a decade, Doctor Who's been building up to this, planting a notion, I think, of a return, a reunion between the Doctor and his long-absent granddaughter, Susan. And that seems almost certain to be about to happen, with the character's surprise reappearance on screen. They were scattered throughout that most recent episode, weren't they? The Interstellar Song Contest. Susan appeared magically, ethereal-like almost, again played by the 84-year-old British character actress Carol Ann Ford. She was the titular Unearthly Child, wasn't she? She was the Time Lord's original companion. And I think to see her reappear under any circumstances at all, you'd have to be made of stone like a weeping angel yourself, really, not to have been moved by just the sight of her, whatever the circumstances. I think whether you enjoyed the episode or not, it's been decades since she was on screen in continuity. Her departure has been heavily mythologized in the time in between her proper departure, and there she was. She appears to be back. So I think I'd like to know from each of you your takes on this, really. Is it really Susan? Why now? how has this occurred, and where on earth could it all be going? Because to bring her on, to show us her in that way and not reunite her with the Doctor now, that really would be very, very cruel indeed. So is this really Susan, Luke?
Yes, sorry, I was typing. I learned from my mistake from last time, and I muted myself while I was typing. There you go. Sorry, I was actually typing to Anthony, so there you go. Yes, I didn't expect it. I knew it was heavily rumored that she was coming in, and it caught me so off guard. I think what Gary said in the chat as well is like Moffat should have brought her back in Capaldi's run. I thought that would have been
the most obvious place for her.
Yeah, that would have been fantastic. But no, I'm so happy she's back as well. And if you look at Unleashed as well, you can see how emotional she gets going back on the TARDIS set and talking about her as well. And she's the first lady of Doctor Who. She's the biggest plot thread that's been hanging over the show for the past 60 years is where's Susan. I know they've tried to tie it in with the spin-off media as well, and in one of the spin-off medias I think it was revealed that she's responsible for like the Ganga technology that's created that pops up in series 6 for Matt Smith's season. But no, I think I read it somewhere. It was like a very offshoot comic or something. It was to do with Susan creating that. But yeah, I thought it's about time she was back. And I met her last year at Hooverville as well, and had a photo with her. She was just an incredible woman, and you could tell then she was itching to get back on the show. She was itching. I think she did the panel as well, and she said, "Oh, would you like Susan to come back?" She said, "Yes, as long as it's played by me, as long as it's not someone else." So I'm glad they brought her back, not Susan. I'm glad they brought Carol Ann Ford back, and I can't wait to see it. That'll be an emotional moment for every Doctor Who fan. So it'd be really cool, really cool when she steps foot on that TARDIS.
I can't claim to have met Carol Ann Ford. I've spoken to her, but we didn't meet. There's a difference, isn't there? You know, we were at Hooverville just as you were, and somebody was blocking a hallway with some bit of kit or something because it was the end of the day. And so I helped move this bit of kit out of the way, and I just said to have a safe journey home. That's the subtotal of my interaction with this woman. But even that, I was sort of, oh my God, that's Carol Ann Ford, Anthony. Oh my God, I bet you've met her.
I have met her, and I was just thinking of the best example of meeting her. So a couple of years ago, I was working with the Heritage Foundation, which are the organisation for putting blue plaques on people's homes posthumously. And I worked with them to put 3 of the Doctor Who's at Television Centre. So Hartnell, Troughton and Pertwee, posthumously in Television Centre foyer. And various Doctor Who luminaries pulled the cord to kind of reveal these plaques. And then we all went for a nice dinner afterwards. And Carol Ann Ford was there and William Russell was there on behalf of the William Hartnell plaque. And she is absolutely delightful. And I think when we talked about Carol Ann Ford before on this show, I said, well, you know, I feel really sorry for her in the sense of she didn't get a Tales from the TARDIS. You know, she's never been a 5-inch character option. What is wrong? What is wrong with this lady that she cannot be taken into plastic and made into a 5-inch toy and all of those things? So it was nice to see her back, beyond nice to see her back. And it was quite emotional from, look at her there, she looks great. She looks like Mon Mothma from Andor. There's something very real and stateswoman-like about her. I agree, absolutely agree with Luke. If they'd brought back Susan, but they hadn't brought back her, I would have been disappointed. I suspect there's a bi-regeneration potentially to come from these two, perhaps, you know, her and then a new Susan to carry on forward. I could speculate, but it was brilliant to see her come back. And, you know, people were saying online, you know, oh, but she came back in dimensions in time. Yeah, okay. In terms of canon, do I accept that as canon? I'm not sure. She did come back, but I'd say her real true reappearance after the black and whites was the 5 Doctors.
I love the fact that Carol Ann Ford is back. and particularly coming on the back of what you've just said, Anthony, in the fact that I think she was treated quite shabbily in the Five Doctors from a character point of view. I loved her in the Big Finish audios with Paul McGann. Just hearing, quite an obviously old woman calling Paul McGann's doctor grandfather was very amusing, and it's referenced as well. Absolutely. And I don't care what happens, and this is me being serious now. I don't care what happens in the next 2 episodes, as long as they treat the character of Susan with the respect that it absolutely deserves. That's the only thing I want to happen if she appears in the finale.
It's interesting. Sorry, Dan, I was just going to say to David, it's interesting you referred to the Five Doctors, because Terence doesn't write that in the script, does he, for the Five Doctors?
No.
That the meeting of the Fifth Doctor with Susan again after all after all that time, it kind of goes unnoticed. But if you look at, and you probably countless times, but if you watch Carol Ann's performance there and Davison's performance there, although it's not written, they give a couple of glances which says to the viewers, oh my goodness, these two people are reuniting. And the credit to the two actors, because it's not there on the script, but they give it behind the scenes, a kind of gesture and a look.
The exchange of energy between them.
Yes. She looks at him lovingly, and he kind of looks back at her lovingly. There is a really nice moment between those two actors.
It's not just love. They're both proud of one another as well.
Yeah. I agree. It's not written, but those actors fill that gap, and I'm very proud of that moment for them, because they fill the gap in the way that the writing doesn't give us, actually.
Dimensions in Time, of course, in 1993, that Children in Need skit where Carol Ann Ford did appear, along with a smattering of other companions and doctors, basically whoever was available. Obviously, this isn't canon, not yet. I expect there'll be some in-joke to this at the weekend, because I don't think Russell T Davies will be quite able to help himself. Charlotte, what do you think?
No, I think probably will get referenced. No, I think we've all said this. If you've seen her on screen, even with all the other stuff that was going on, to hear just the word grandfather and the way she delivered it, because this actress has never really stopped loving Doctor Who. You can see that in interviews or when she does the circuit, like the convention circuit. She still has that real love for the fact that she was there at the beginning. And whenever she does act, it brings it. So I agree. It is absolutely lovely to see her. I'm happy that it looks like we're going to get more of her in the finale coming up, that she wasn't just literally those scenes in the episode just gone. Because then I think that would have just been Russell once again jangling some keys in front of the fans to go, look, do you remember this? So I'm happy that she's got more by the looks of it to do. And this is nothing on Caroline when I say this. I just find it a little bit cynical that when the show's struggling right now, when it's sort of losing the love in the fan base, that Russell goes running back to people like Carolyn. I think that's very telling, that those original characters, those original sort of parts of the history, they are still absolutely beloved. And we sort of hold them as these, we've all said she's like the grand lady of the show. So that love is never going to go away. If there's anything, it shows testament to what this actress has done in this role.
Russell T Davies is nobody's favourite person at the moment in the Doctor Who universe. I think whether you're enjoying this series or not, a great many people have a lot of mixed feelings about this guy. But I am pleased that he's done this. I'm not sure it's necessarily a cynical move.
Sorry, I'd have to disagree with that, because this was shot before, while series 1 wasn't even aired. Like, this was done, so they wouldn't know the show was in a dire straits to go back to get Carol Ann Ford in. So this was all pre-planned.
Okay, I'll correct. Maybe not cynical. That wasn't the right word. I find it telling. Maybe that's the better word then. That they probably didn't know then that how this was going to go.
Got a quote from her here.
that Russell knows he can go back to somebody like her.
We've got a quote from her here before the fact on the notion of coming back. It would be very emotional, she said, very emotional. I don't know if I could survive the excitement, actually. It would be intense beyond all intensity. So, and she's always said stuff like this. You know, she's a very energetic person. You know, she's a woman of age now, and yet her eyes light up when she talks about this stuff, not just what was going on screen. You can't expect people to remember that after 6 decades, can you, Luke? But obviously it's the associations of the people that she loved, that she worked with, that she grew close to in that time. And the passage of time in between, because for her, obviously she worked with Richard Herndale, and there's that story about how when she met him on the when they were making the Five Doctors, how initially her first meeting with him, he had the wig on, and she looked at him from behind, and just for a moment she felt, oh, is that Bill Hartley? You know, how spooky that was for her, how much of a sort of out of body experience, and that was 40 years ago. So heaven knows how this felt. There are nods to William Hartnell already present. We've seen so little. There he is, the original Doctor in action there, again with the original TARDIS console, which looks so there it is in full color this time. All those switches, all those dials, all those tubes. It was the plastic. The plastic was cutting edge, I suppose, in the 60s, wasn't it? And now it all looks so quaint. But if you look at his hand there as it works the controls at the forefront of the picture, you'll notice an accessory on his hand there. The little ring that the Hartnell Doctor wore. I think it did now and again change, Anthony, throughout his run. But somebody spotted this in those elements where Susan is seen speaking to the Doctor there, how she's wearing a pair of earrings there that are very, very similar to the Doctor's ring. So there does seem to be little links back to the Hartnell incarnation of the character. Loving touches like that, which, okay, it's not something major, but it's enough. I think subtleties like that, it's more to ensure the fans that this is being done, I think, with love and with sensitivity, and I think to make the actress too feel connected to her legacy on the show and the people that would have meant so much to her, not just from being on the show, but from the convention circuit that they were all part of after the fact, Anthony.
Yeah, I would agree, and I saw a very similar tweet on X or on social media, you know, linking this earring to William Hartnell's ring in the first series, second series, third series, to be able to link to that, and I thought that was a nice touch. I hadn't noticed that myself. But going back to what you were saying about Peter Capaldi and the picture of Susan on his desk when he's working at university. And I often felt that in Twice Upon a Time Lord, when David Bradley comes back to be the first Doctor, there's a scene when the TARDIS has just landed and somebody comes out of the shadows and David Bradley says, who is it? Who is it? Show yourself, or whatever the line is. And it's actually Paul Mackey that comes out of the shadows. But at that point, I had a rush of excitement that had they kept this secret that Carol Ann Ford was going to walk out of those shadows and was going to be that kind of generated image. Yeah, he goes, the first Doctor, David Bradley, goes, oh, show yourself, reveal yourself. Who are you? Who are you? Doing this kind of Hartnell-esque kind of jittering. And then Paul Mackey comes out of the shadows. And I thought, oh, bloody hell, I feel really cheated, because all of that build-up of the pictures on the desk, it's Carol Ann. I thought, oh, here's the Susan moment that we've been waiting for, and it didn't happen. So imagine if she had have done that. That would have been a great moment for them in that time. But it's great to have her back now.
To be fair, they did well hiding that she was in this episode. Like, I was genuinely surprised. Like, I know she was rumoured, but the fact that we had no idea she was going to appear in this one. Like, fair game, this production team has not been good at hiding stuff, but they've managed to hide that one, so well done.
They teased us, Charlotte, if you remember, and I did make a video about this nearly 2 years ago, out rumours that I heard way back then, but when it didn't happen during season one, just as Anthony said, I kind of ripped the idea off. I think I'd forgotten that they'd recorded them all kind of in bulk And I mean, you never know whether Russell T Davies is pulling your plonker or not when he drops the hints that he does. I mean, that's all part of the game, I suppose. Stephen Braddock said the earrings are a lovely callback to the first Doctor too.
Well, yes, the problem is sometimes Russell does follow with his hints, and you go, "Oh God, that was actually hint planted before, and now it's coming." So yeah, probably when we were all sort of not very happy last series online as fans, saying you kept dangling Susan in front of us and she didn't appear, he probably had in the back of his head, well, you just wait, because he knew this was coming.
Yeah, and you're right, Charlotte. And actually, if that had been shown, if this series had been shown as one block, as 16 epic episodes, the jump between Susan twist, there's always a twist at the end, Susan twist, here comes Susan, all of that kind of tiptoeing towards Susan would have paid off in 7 or 8 weeks later. But because we've had to wait a whole year to be able to watch this, I think it loses slightly that impact of that. And had they kept on going after the Sutik episodes with Susan twist, is it Susan? Is there a twist? I think it would have paid off a bit quicker. I think the fact that we've had to wait kind of dampens that a little bit, but was still exciting when she appeared.
We've got some great comments here in the live chat, including Shah, who says that Susan had been mentioned regularly last season, so I'm glad. I'll be honest, I dropped my phone when Caroline Ford popped up. You're always dropping your phone. Mr. Matt says, oh, yes, nice spotted. The first Doctor reminds us of Sydney Rough Diamond there. Doctor Who fan 001 says, have you not watched the episodes? They knew exactly how these shows were going to fail in the UK. And nobody makes television expecting it to fail, do they? Come on now. Let's be reasonable.
And to be fair, like I said, cynical wasn't the right word I used. I just sort of back to the conversation we had before, the fact that they are going back again, technically. Like, we all love the fact that Susan's there, but I just think it's telling that Russell's keeping going back to other characters.
Yeah, and we knew what you meant. Yeah,
I can understand how
Stephen Braddock's got a theory here. He says, "I'm really pleased that she's come back as the actress because the original rumor was she'd been a glass avatar."
Yes,
I'm so glad that we got Caroline Ford back instead. Is the glass avatar a reference to the Twice Upon a Time story? Is that what that was? Okay.
So basically, the rumor was she was going to appear in the finale as like a testament. I think that's what they were called, those characters. So technically we would have had her like we had Bill, but it wasn't her. So this is I agree, this is a much better way of doing it.
Yeah. Sally is still not on board. Russell T Davies is awful. Gato is dreadful. The show is getting garbage now. But we've got Steve and Jeannie Faith? Sorry, Steve and Jeannie. They say this season was much better than season 1. Shooty needs to stop crying and saying honey and babes. It's fam all over again. Thanks for joining us both. We've had a tandem message before. Let's have a look and see what else we've got. Wasn't the first Doctor able to open the TARDIS with his ring, asks Funky. He would sort of shine it a little, wouldn't he? And it would open the lock or something, David? I can't quite remember how.
Dalek's master plan, when the monk sabotages the TARDIS, he uses it to get in.
Don't be surprised if Russell T Davies destroys the story of Susan, says Noodle Arms. You're taking the black pill here, I think. But where is this going? Obviously, it's a reasonable question to bring back a character after all this time. I mean, she says, Luke, find me in those scenes. Grandfather, she tells him off for torturing that fella, and then says, find me. Why now? I wonder why now. What has she got? Where is she? Is she in trouble? Does she think he's in trouble, either spiritually or physically? Why now?
Well, this season seems to be, the past 2 seasons seem to be all about, the running theme is family. It is family, lack thereof, or supporting family. It is, if you've seen it with Ruby, and now the Doctor's obviously, he's the last of the time, well, not really anymore, but he's the timeless child. He has no family. All the Gallifreyans are gone, Time Lords are gone. We've had the twist, Belinda wants to get back to her family. So, this is going to set it up. So I think we'll see a lot more of it come. And obviously, just hope that Captain Poppy is not Susan. That's all I hope.
Dr. Poppy, Dr. Poppy. It's Dr. Poppy. She is the doctor.
I mean, this has got me thinking. Obviously, these scenes between her and the Doctor there. This is where what I think is happening is that she is not contacting the Doctor, her grandfather, directly. I think this is all going to tie into Susan's telepathic abilities that were touched on in the original series. And she's only in like 50-odd episodes or something like that, that first season and a bit. But the idea was that she was sort of mildly telepathic, and they would explore that now and again in stories like The Edge of Destruction and The Sensorites.
Yeah.
So I think what she's actually doing here is that she's still connected. It's the TARDIS telepathic circuits that she's connected to, and she's contacting them. And so the TARDIS is acting as a conduit. It's the TARDIS that is connecting the two of them, that is tethering them to one another. She's contacted it, and the TARDIS is effectively bouncing the call on to the Doctor. So I think that's where it's going to come from. But where she actually is, her physical being, I have no idea. I can't wait to find out. It also reminds me a little her appearance of. Now this is a bit left field, so stick with me. But given the fact that she's wearing the earrings and is wearing a pendant as well, reminds me of a character in the film Titanic, the 1998 James Cameron movie. And again, it's that kind of iconography again. Will the amulet, will the jewelry come into it in any way? Is that amplifying her telepathic abilities in some manner? I just hope that it doesn't have the kind of tragic ending for the character that obviously the Titanic did. But that's where I think it's going. I think it's going telepathic and leaning into elements of the classic show, which we often talk about now, but at the time kind of went unseen, because there were sophisticated ideas at the time.
If you have a look at her interview in Unleashed, clearly wearing another costume, not what she wears on the TARDIS. So clearly she's going to be in it a lot more and not dressed as Rose Dawson, or whatever her name is. From the Titanic's one of my favourite films. I love that movie. Me too. Film that makes me cry. Jeez. Love that movie.
My too, mate. Yes. I adore it. We have got the Unleashed stuff here. So this is where they were with Doctor Who Unleashed. It's a very different costume that's definitely a costume. There's no way that's Carol Ann Ford's casual clothes, and the way her hair is styled. It looks a lot more official, but still it's still quite regal, isn't it, Charlotte? What Anthony just said, it's almost statesman woman-like.
Yeah, maybe if it looks like in the next episode we're having realities being warped, wish world, and I would argue probably one of the Doctor's biggest wishes would be to see Susan again. So what if the villains, the Rani or whoever's responsible for that, are basically pulling Susan from wherever she is into their world to basically either distract or trap the Doctor?
Yeah.
If the Earth is destroyed on May 24th, then she's on Earth in the future, so she's going to need to. So that's where the reality war aspect might come in. She's from a different reality now, where Earth is survived. Yeah, it's a very strange one. Very, very strange. Cool.
In an Earthly Child, the Big Finish audio, she is a very important stateswoman, Susan Campbell, addressing the council quite a lot of time. She is a very revered and respected individual. So one would imagine that in that time after her husband has died, David has died, she is probably a very important person within the future government. So that sort of outfit would sort of really go with that sort of theory. So I think that's a really, really good shout.
But David, I will say what I say to John Carley, much to his dismay, every 5 minutes. Big Finish isn't canon. Joking, John. Don't kill me. If you see this, John, please don't kill me. I'm joking.
Until it is, because Moffat made it canon in Night of the Doctor. So
I honestly to wind John up.
Yeah.
In many
So,
respects, I think it would be a pity now. They did ask Carol Ann Ford herself in Unleashed about her return to the series there on the set of the TARDIS, about why now, and she has put it down to fan power, Anthony. Obviously, her relationship with the fans stretches back longer than anybody else's now. I think at this point, with the exception of maybe Waris Hussein, but then he was distant from it for so long. As you say, she is the stateswoman of Doctor Who, and if she doesn't know, if she's not a good gauge for why now, I suppose, then who is? Because we have spent decades asking this woman when you're coming back, haven't we? Certainly the last 2 decades.
Yeah, agreed. And actually, if you go back and think about the 5 Doctors, you know, which companions, if you were writing the 5 Doctors, which companions would you invite back? Who are the top 5 crucial ones to have in the 5 Doctors? And of course, Susan is there right from the outset. So it's a good choice for the 5 Doctors, and I think it's a good choice now. I'd love to be able to think that the Rani is doing some kind of awful experiment on Susan, some kind of Time Lord essence to extract that from her. There's some kind of torture going on, which is going to get the Doctor really riled, and he has to go and save her. I kind of like the idea of that little bit of jeopardy that she's somehow been taken into the world of Wishworld. And
I hope they're not going to bring her back to do something horrible to her, Anthony. That would be awful. That would be awful. She goes on to say,
go on.
I think the fans have been saying, where is she? What's happened to her? Yeah, because back in the day, watching the classic show and obviously rediscovering the classic show through physical media or through cable, you just accept that the companions are with the Doctor, and then they're not. Charlotte, they're left where they are left to go and live their lives. It's quite a modern thing that for us to speculate and to wonder about what's happened to them, since. But obviously that link, that familiar, that family quality to this particular connection, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's deeper than all of the companions that have come since. But of all the people that we've met that have been regular characters on the show, there's only been one that the Doctor has called family that seems to be a biological descendant of his. So she's always been, despite the fact it was just that first year, just that little bit more. It's sort of in a category of her own, you know.
Well, yeah, I think, like you said, obviously with the modern stuff, they've concentrated more on the companions, so we do get that more sort of, oh, this is the family, this is how it affects everybody around them disappearing. Whereas in classic, sometimes they played with that, sometimes they didn't. It wasn't consistent. But yeah, I think the combination for Susan was, like you said, she was family. She was sort of, when we first met this quite at times grumpy and harsh Hartnell, you sort of saw the softer come out in him with Susan. You saw that softer side, that more sort of loving side. And I think, honestly, some of it is because of her exit. Watching that episode when Hartnell, and he plays it brilliantly, and so does she on her end, you can see a grandfather not wanting to let their granddaughter go. You can see he's fighting it in some ways, but by the end he realises she's found love, he needs to let her go. And it's sort of this lovely but bitter, sweet moment of one side having to say goodbye and the other side starting a new life. So I think that sort of sticks in your head more than other stuff in the classic run. So that's why we wanted to know, does she have a happy life? Does she actually have that love for her whole life? And then what does she do afterwards? That's why I think there's that more intrigue with Susan.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's devastating, isn't it, Charlotte? You know, when he shuts the door on her and essentially locks her out of making a decision about where she goes next. It is seriously heartbreaking. And you imagine all of those young people watching that go out for live, and they've watched her through all of those episodes. Dan said 50 odd episodes, you know, all of those episodes, and suddenly seeing a regular character leave the series. That truly is a moment to remember, isn't it, from those fans and for us as well. It's an epic departure, and I guess that's why she's saying, you know, fans are always keen to know whatever happened to Susan. I mean, Dan, do you remember there was a radio drama in the 90s called
Yes.
what do you remember it, David? Whatever
of
happened
course.
to Susan Foreman, where I think Susan is played by Jane Asher or something.
Yeah,
You know,
she is,
it's you know, and we all got excited then for a radio drama that's pretty. I probably listened to it once or twice. It was pretty wacky at that point, wasn't it? So there's always
it
been
was quite
that.
funny.
It was all we've always asked that question: what's happened to Susan? Where is Susan? And I think the Five Doctors go some way into answering that, but doesn't answer the whole story.
Given Russell's sensibilities as well, Anthony, given the way that he's always pitched it as well, you know, since he brought the series back, with us regularly going back to Rose's domestic family life on the Powell estate. It's never do domestic for very long. There's something dropping out of the sky or something's blowing up. But you know, there's always an element, effort is made to anchor the character. I think it's extraordinary that he's waited this long.
Yeah, and I, you know, and I think, you know, comments that I've read on Twitter, on X, sorry, on social media about, you know, Russell not doing this character justice. I don't believe for one moment that, you know, as a long-standing Doctor Who fan, when contracting Caroline Ford to come back into Doctor Who, he's not going to approach this any other way apart from respect for the actress for one, but also for the character. I feel as though it's in safe hands here in this instance.
Going back to what Caroline Ford herself said on Unleashed, it seems they met for the very first time at the screening of the Star Beast. That's where this picture's taken. So they hadn't met in all that time. They were introduced by a mutual friend. I think it was Patrick Mulkern from the Radio Times. And obviously, it was one of those moments, at last we meet kind of thing. I think that's how she describes it. And they instantly hugged one another. And she says, and while we were hugging, Russell said to me, asked if she wanted to go back. And she said, yes, of course I'd like to come back. And he then replied, well, that's good because you're coming back. So it sounds that by that point, he'd already written these scripts for some form or another, even if I think it was about 5 months away from them filming them. So they're clearly in a state whereby he'd fashioned the story, decided who were going to be the elements before approaching her with an offer. And I mean, just look at her face. You know, look at the relish on her face just talking about this. It's a wonderful little interview that they have clipped it. It's up on the official BBC channels as well there. So anybody can see this, see it in full. Well, just wonderful stuff. I can't wait to see, again, the costume, the set. Is she going to be on the TARDIS? Who is she going to meet and how? We'll just wait and find out, won't we? I'm so excited by this. This would be enough, frankly, but there's other stuff going on that I'm excited by as well, Luke. Do you think that bringing back these kind of legacy characters confuses anybody, though, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, to the general audience that's left watching, which isn't many by the looks, it's just going to be the diehards that are watching now, isn't it? So realistically, not really. To be honest, everyone will know the history of Susan Foreman. Yeah, for the casual, I think the problem with New Who is it does rely too much on its history. I know Russell did a really good way of building up the Daleks in season 1, but you know he did rely on Daleks, Cybermen, Master, Time Lords. Moffat tried to veer away from it ever so slightly with the Pandorica was everyone. Season 6 was the Silence. Season 7 was the Grey Intelligence. But I think Moffat tried to move away from it slightly, where Russell is, and Chibnall to his degree had the guy with all the teeth on his face, which cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did. Yeah, I think when Russell first came on, he said, "Well, I don't want to go too much into the history of Doctor Who because he wants to stay with." We have to wait 2 seasons for the Doctor to even mention Gallifrey. Now he's just, well, everyone knows everything about Doctor Who. I'm going to reboot the show and make it the most lore-heavy 2 seasons I could possibly imagine. It's like, oh wow, okay. But yeah, I think New Who does have that new monster that it needs to start creating new monsters and not rely on the past. You could pay homage to the past, but it does. It seems a lot of fan service. And to be fair with Susan, fantastic. Do it. I'm all for it. The Rani as well. Everyone's been screaming up the Rani for 20 years. Every female actor that's coming on board that plays a villain is the Rani. So it's about time. I just want Brian May's the Master. That's all I want.
We've got lots of comments in the live chat here on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. about all of this. People confused, some people angry, some people fearful, and other people just confused. Tom Haynes asks, is she in the TARDIS, physically in the TARDIS, waiting for the Doctor? Did they go back to the TARDIS at the end?
Yeah,
of the
they did. Yeah, they went back in and they blew the bloody doors off at the end. So
of course, how could I forget? Again, David Mullen asks, how would Susan be contacting me? Well, I believe it's through the telepathic circuits, David. So she's there, but she's not there, if you know what I mean. And Liven's Flame says, is she wearing psychic earrings? Stranger things have happened when you use the subwave network as garbage. Reminds us. Heretic has been reading more leaks. Yes, stay tuned for our editions later in the week for more of that. And Tom says, I know she's waiting in the TARDIS. Well, she wasn't, was she? According to what was on screen. There we go. Geek Rambles, that's Shah again, says she could be in Cardiff, accessing the power of the Rift. There you go. I'd forgotten what that was. Ashvin says that could be a great theory. I know Russell's explanation will be nonsensical. But he might not explain it at all. It might be all mumbo jumbo and ooh, woo woo kind of stuff. Who knows? And Stephen Braddock says, I just hope Carol Ann Ford and Susan are given a fitting emotional send-off as the actress deserves it.
Because to be fair, this is probably going to be... It's lovely to see her back, but I don't see her being back a lot after this. So I think they need to, like Anthony said, with the time we have with her, full respect, full care and love needs to go into all of her minds fully.
Completely agree. Fly Highland said, I found out that she's 84 now. Crazy. I thought she was 69. Maybe. Yeah, she's got a youthful quality about her. I mean, yeah, when I saw her, I say she's a magical figure. I don't use that word lightly. We are delighted to have you back, says Stephen. Yes.
I was going to say, Dan, it took Carol Ann Ford a long time to appear on the convention circuit, because I was a big convention goer in the 80s, and I was very fortunate to meet lots of these classic actors that were in the old series. And it took Carol Ann Ford a long time for me to see her at a Doctor Who event. And I recall probably the very first time was John Nathan Turner was doing these various tours around the country of lectures and these lecture opportunities. So he would get a couple of Doctor Who actors together and they would do a lecture in a lecture theatre, then you'd ask questions. And I think that was the very first time I met Carol Ann Ford, which was in the kind of early 1990s. And she did this fabulous lecture for a whole hour about the magic of Doctor Who and about her early days in Doctor Who. And it was in Bristol. And I was absolutely mesmerised by this actress and about her stories and about her adventures on Doctor Who. Even then, she was looking back, because it had only been 30 years at that point since she had left the series. And she did this fabulous lecture, and it kind of sticks in my mind, apart as well for the fact that I think William Russell was there and Jacqueline Hill was supposed to have been there. But John Nathan Turner had said that she was unwell and couldn't attend, and subsequently she died quite soon after that event. So it was with much sadness that I hadn't met her, but it was great to see those two figures from early Doctor Who talking about Doctor Who. I feel very blessed that I was in the right space at the right time to meet up with some of these classic actors.
Yeah.
It was it was great. But she was able, what my point is she was able to do a 60-minute lecture, without notes, just talking about Doctor Who to a very big, very grateful audience of people in this kind of off the top of her head kind of lecture. It's great.
It must have been a very heady time to be part of the show back then when the nation was going Dalek crazy. And so was she, according to this picture. We've got more comments here. Retro Doc Gary Akers here, Type 40 panelist, says, I don't even think of Susan as a companion. She's family. Yeah. That's another level.
Yeah.
We have New Who Hater says, I hope they do some utterly ridiculous stuff with her just for the laughs at this point. That's very mean-spirited, New Who Hater.
Not very
you do
charitable.
You do you by all means, but I think that's uncalled for, to tell you the truth. But
That's not nice.
yeah, we've got. I wonder if the Doctor kept Susan's shoe. Well, it's such a sad scene. That's the scene again from
Yes.
Dalek Invasion of Earth, isn't it, David?
Yeah. Yeah. He left her. He left her without shoes, didn't he? Or one shoe. A bit like Cinderella. And that would be lovely. No, honestly, that would be lovely if he still had her shoe after all that would get me. I honestly mean that, and I'm not being facetious when I say this. I would be an absolute blubbering wreck if that actually happened. I would not be able to speak through crying. That would just get me right here. It really would.
Funky says that Carol Ann Ford wouldn't do it if it hurts the history of the character, a bit like Liz Sladen in School Reunion. Obviously, that's a high benchmark to hit. That delivered. I mean, you could say that was a little saccharine in places, but it had all the components of good drama as well. Again, a thin plot, but when you've got characters that are that strong, we want to hear them. We don't necessarily want it or need it to be wrapped up inside something elaborate, do we? Funky says, raise a glass to the original TARDIS team, a tear for both Williams and Jacqueline. Yeah, we lost William Russell nearly a year ago now. I think that was. I think it's come up to a year, Luke. Something like that. Yeah, we've got more. Yes, so keep them coming. We've got more nuggets. We've got more venting. Some people are really not happy about this. Is she going to get a segue? Asks Richard Brooks. I don't know. Maybe she'll have some accessories or another. And we'll have to wait and see, won't we? Stephen Braddock agrees with you, Charlotte. And Dalek Lives Matter says, I think this series has peaked with this episode, so I'm not expecting much from it now. But if you're not expecting much, then obviously all it can do is take it up. You can't really lose, can you, if you're not expecting much in the first place? Looking back, well, I think this was a good couple of years ago now, to the BBC social media. Yeah, Russell T Davies was playing with us all the way back then. They shared this clip across the socials and labelled it. They were throwing it back to the first big goodbye between the Doctor and a companion. And Russell had added whatever happened to her and the little thinky face. And I, at the time, I thought, and I made a whole video about this. It's up on the channel. And when it looked like he wasn't going to deliver, I got really quite cross about it. You used the expression earlier on, Charlotte. How can he jangle these particular keys? And that's kind of how I was as well. But yeah, hopefully it's going somewhere worthwhile, somewhere appropriate. And obviously this is still a mainstream adventure series. I'm dearly hoping that the finale is going to thrill the viewing public, whether you're watching on Disney Plus or on the iPlayer. And yeah, hopefully the character will be reimagined in an effective, tangible way that's going to really play on that unique relationship that we all spoke about earlier on between her and the Doctor. Here she is, here and now, Carol Ann Ford returning as Susan Foreman at last after how many years is it, David? 61.
60. She left in 64, so 61. Yeah, basic mathematics. Only in mathematics do we find the truth, said Cardinal Barusa. But yeah, 61 years. It's going to be amazing. Look, I really want it to be amazing. I haven't enjoyed this season, but this, for me, with the right treatment of Susan, would rescue it beyond all means for me, because and somebody's I think it was alluded to in the chat a moment ago about the fact that I don't think I think Carol Ann Ford is a lot like Liz Sladen. She wouldn't agree to come back if her character wasn't properly portrayed. Do you know what I mean? So I'm hoping beyond hope for if she does appear, for her character to be well utilized and true to her character, shall we say? And that will rescue the season for me. It really will. And I'm sorry if people in the chat don't like that, but that's how
This
I
is-
feel.
And this is Type 40 Live, where we don't just say this. All opinions are welcome. You're going to hear stuff you might not necessarily like, agree with, or be on board with. And that's how it is. That's how it's always been. It's not going to change now because an era has changed or is changing. People are coming or going that you like or don't like. This is good news. This is a good thing that this actress is coming back now. Yes, we don't
100%.
know where we're going to be in 2 weeks' time, but I think it's in our best interests to kind of hold the course. I think if you're still watching at this point, certainly there's no reason why any of us shouldn't carry on watching. Hopefully the story's going to pick up in the first half of this 2-part season finale. They're not going to make us wait another week on top. That's Wish World, scheduled for 6:50 p.m. on BBC One this Saturday. Obviously, it's up on the iPlayer and Disney Plus from 8 a.m. UK time earlier on. Running time of just 44 minutes. I thought that they might extend both of these, but apparently it's just 44 minutes. And it's again by Russell T. Davies. We'll be previewing this episode in greater detail on Type 40 Live's Big Who this coming Thursday. In the meantime, drop us your comments on what are your hopes and fears, not just for Susan, but for everything else as well. Now that we finally got what we've been asking for all of this time, I think it's right. We're allowed to savor it, to speculate, and to hope for the best. Hope for the best. Where next? Where shall we go?
I'm Lila, over 70, and you should watch Type 40.
Are things looking up? That is the question. He certainly is. And so she, come to think of it. And yes, this has been Type 40 Live as ever. You can reach out to us for more through the usual places, via the usual methods. We've got lots of new people joining us in the live chat. Thank you for all the comments and all that interaction so far. But it doesn't stop here. Get in touch with us through our social medias. That's Instagram and X at Type 40 Doctor Who. Or come and join us in the Type 40 Facebook group. Come and join in with even more speculation and out geekiness, unapologetic geekiness, to keep it off your main timeline so your colleagues and your family won't take the piss. Get involved with Type 40 through your own device, through your smartphone. You can leave us a message, a prediction, any kind of feedback at all, really, on SpeakPipe there. Record us a message. We'll get it on the show, and you can get involved. You'll get our answers, our reactions to all of that. The series, it's working its way to a conclusion, of course, and we're holding the course to bring you more opinions and more coverage, hot takes, cold shoulders, pet peeves, rants and raves, and everything else coming on the next Type 40 Live as we get closer to Wish World. Next time, there'll be a focus on another returning character. Yeah, it's she's taking over the time vortex on the Big Who with Type 40
Oh, that's a sexy photo, can I just say?
From 8 p.m. Thursday UK time, as always. Happy to please, David. That working for you, mate? That works for you?
Oh yeah, I'm there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to go for a moment. Do you mind?
Just come over all unnecessary at the thought.
Oh, that was quick. Oh, thank goodness for that.
How terrifying. David, thanks for joining us again.
It's a pleasure.
For this one. What a lovely thing to talk about. You know, the return of a genuine icon, as well as to hear some positive takes as well on a story that, you and I didn't particularly enjoy it, but a couple of the guys here did. And we've had some great comments in the live chat as well. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? The free exchange of various different perspectives and views and feelings about this stuff. That's what this fandom has always done at its best, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that people love it. I love stories that people hate, and people hate stories that I love. And the whole fact is that it's different, and no matter what, I will. It's like my sporting teams. I will watch week in, week out, and if it's good, it's good. If it's not, I'll keep watching, because that's what you do.
Thank you again, David. Yes, and
Pleasure.
thank you to Anthony Wayne of the Lock Stock Doctor. I'm going to start calling you.
Thank you so much. I love that picture at the beginning, and it was nice to see that picture of Kate O'Mara at the end. I was invited to Kate O'Mara's house once.
Oh,
but that's,
please! Oh, you've got me again. Oh,
but that's another story for another time, Dan. But thank you very much for this evening. I enjoyed it very much.
Invited round Kate O'Mara's gaff. Blimey, I don't think I could take it, even the thought of it.
I want
Charlotte,
to hear more of that.
again, thank you for your company, Charlotte. Back for more on Thursday if you can stand it, but the end is in sight.
Yeah, and I fully agree that for what we can enjoy of these episodes coming forward, I think we should absolutely enjoy what we can of it, even if you don't love every aspect of an episode. If there's bits that you go, no, that was a bit that I dialed into. Don't let the stuff you don't like impact the stuff you do. I've always said that. A show is lots of parts, lots of things going on, and you can equally love something and hate something in the same episode. So let's see what he gives us.
Absolutely. This show has brought all of us together, and you too, and that has to be a good thing in and of itself. It could be going away for a little while, and so yeah, let's enjoy it while we've got it, even if it's just enjoying complaining about it. What do you think, Luke?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll go on record. I say this is probably the series I've enjoyed the most since season 5. Series 5. I've loved this series. For me, every episode's been bang after bang after banger. Can't wait for next week. I can't wait to see the reunion of Mel and the Rani. I think that'll be cool. I hope somehow Russell writes in that the Rani is the cause for the bi generation anyway, because she loves experiments. So let that come from her. I know someone mentioned in the chat earlier as well. So yeah, no, yeah. Hey, people enjoy what they enjoy. Hey, everyone has different tastes, so people get out of it what they want. So it's good to have different opinions, and that's why we can all chat on here. And yeah, the world would be a very boring place if everyone was noble and everyone liked the same thing. So.
And I'm buzzing with enthusiasm. If not for that, then certainly for this. We're going to run around here. I'm going to burn off some energy here running around the console room for the next couple of days and ponder it a little bit more about what could be happening with Susan and the Rani. The Ranis, I should say. And that horrible bloke from Lucky Day, he's back too. Didn't like him very much. Oh dear, oh dear. Okay, that does wrap it up for this one. We'll see you for more, even more coming this Thursday from 8 p.m. This is where we park it for a couple of days. We always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40 Live. We'll catch you then. Bye-bye.